Did you find it interesting that they named this episode Even Days, even though it's on episode 3, which is an odd number? However, it means something more. These are the days they try for an heir, and it's coronation time. And this is where we see a little bit of a lover's quarrel between these. And Brimsley is like, if you found yourself another writer, it better be one of the same class as you. And the way Reynolds lowers his voice and is just like, I'm just downstairs. I just love. Also love how they're matchmakers with the king and queen. And we find out the king is being seen by a doctor in the cellar. And if you know anything about the backstory of King George, this has to deal with his mental health. We find out more about this in the next episode. During this time, we also see a young Violet Bridgerton, right now, Ledger. And something I want to point out, I don't know if this means anything, but the painting that she is seen with, it has shells on it, seashells. Bridgerton Easter egg head is just like, does this mean anything? But I'm not sure. Eventually see Violet Ledger listening in on her parents' conversation. Her mother's not okay with the changes at court. And the way that her mother says, stop thinking, makes me think of Portia Featherington when she tells Penelope Featherington, you should have thoughts. Just the way they both say it sound very similar. It makes me think that it's kind of going to be a foreshadowing for how Violet's going to relate with Penelope. Also, her father refers to her as Brains, and I kind of hope they bring that up somehow in season 4. We also see how it became that Lady Danbury hosts the first ball of every season. I also want to point out the fact that even though Agatha does not really like her husband, she understands the importance of telling him, you do matter. And there's something to be said about Black women and women of color always uplifting and upholding the culture. That even during this time, our women are just, I love it. We also get answers for this photo in a very emotional scene in present day Bridgerton. Violet explains how her father used to make her paper hat, something she continued on and started doing for Edmund, and something that becomes very significant later on in the season. Also, Lady Danbury tells Violet that she is fortunate, something Violet doesn't take well, but it's later explained that Violet is lucky to have loved her husband where Lady Danbury did not. And while I don't have a photo of it yet, we do meet Farmer George. I'm a huge fan of Farmer George. Now we have to talk about how Lady Danbury brings Queen Charlotte into focus, like focus girl. She says, you are the first of your kind. That opened doors, so we are new. Do you not see us? That line right there, do you not see us? I just love this, and that like changed the game because the king and queen do go to Lady Danbury's ball, and we hear If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. And this is where Lord Ledger, Violet's father, dances with Lady Danbury with permission from Lord Danbury, something that is very significant. And guess what? Lord Danbury dies. And these two, y'all, you have to love them so much in this show. Coral and Lady Danbury are basically like, and then they set a scene up to where it's like, oh my god, the women of this time, gotta love them. Now Brimsley has a very candid conversation with the queen that the reason why her daughters are not able to find matches is that they don't want to leave her alone. She's stuck in time and they care so much about her, and she ponders this for a bit. We then see a young King George have his first episode around young Queen Charlotte, to where they kind of become Venus and Farmer George. Now for episode 4.